Hey everyone, I'm Phoenix, and this is the start of a pretty long series where we're going to solve the scenarios in City Skylines. We're starting with the first scenario that was released, Alpine Villages from the Natural Disasters DLC. But before we get started, I wanted to show you some of the mods that I have installed that are going to help me with this challenge. Specifically, in the mod list here we have Improved Public Transport 2. This is going to give us things like vehicle unbunching and spawn time control, things like that. The second one we've got is Network Extensions 2, which gives us our bus lanes and our busways. And of course, we've got TMPE, Traffic Manager. I'm using the Stable Edition. Stables always work better for me. You can use labs if you want, same deal. The lab stuff has some new features that I won't in this video. To get started, we'll go to New Game, choose our scenario, and choose Alpine Villages, the first of the Natural Disasters DLC. Our goal today is to grow small Alpine villages to reach a transportation goal. That transportation goal is 500,000 people transported within 350 game weeks, which is a decent amount of time, but that is quite a large number of people. We have the standard scenario rules, like you can't empty the city, and you can't run out of money. We've got a decent enough area for building here on this map. It looks quite mountainous. It's probably going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure it'll be alright. I'll leave it called Salzbrook, and I'll leave it with the default right-hand traffic. Sometimes I set left-hand traffic because of where I'm from, but for this one I'm just going to stick with the defaults. So let's get started. Now that we're in, before we even move around, there's a few pretty interesting things to note. Maybe worth mentioning some of the mods that I'm using here to give me an overview of the city. This one is Watch It. So you'll find it in the Steam Workshop or in the collection that I've listed below. We can see that garbage and education, along with fire and police, what's this one, heating and death services, crematoriums, are all kind of lacking in this city. This one up here, we can see the notifications within the city. This one worker needed lines up with over here. We've got the standard $90,000 basically. We've got quite some high demand already before we even get going, which is good. And it's cute that we're starting on today's date. I've never noticed that before. If I zoom out a bit and have a look at the map, we've got an interesting layout, primarily driven by roads. I don't know where the closest rail is yet. I'll go looking for that later. If we look at the zoning, we can see that we've got a decent highway connection here. That's a nice big roundabout at the start here. That'll definitely help us as the traffic grows and scales, and we can use TMPE to set that up properly. What I might try and do first of all is move industrial demand here quite close to the highway and move a lot of our residential over here, because having this industry over here is polluting for one, but also is it's going to be quite difficult for any trucks or cars that need to get from this industry zone out to the highway through the rest of the city. I think this area up here might be good for a commercial district. It's got access to the highway if we upgrade some of these roads. And if we make this into a large suburb to get started, then that should unlock buses at some point, and then we can just bus people back and forth. That could be a good game plan. This one I might just leave alone for now. I think that might be best if I just focus on these other ones first. So let's get started. I think before we even unpause the game, I'm going to dezone that one and this one. I'll rezone this over here so they've got somewhere to move back into. The landfill site needs to empty, but it doesn't look like there's any other facilities for it to empty to. So even though we've only got $90,000, I'll spend a decent chunk of that here. Oh, I forgot to have a look at water. Okay, so it looks like the scenario's done a pretty good job of laying out water pipes and that sort of stuff for us, which is good. The demand is fine. Electricity, Yeah, fine. I will need to connect these ones, so I'll just do that quickly before I forget. It's not going to be there long term. I will end up building up this area at some point, and then we can get rid of the power lines. Power lines look okay there, coming up and to the rubbish dump, to the tip. I'll need to unpause the game to kick that one off. So it recognizes that this one turns on so that I can empty this one out. I think for now that might be enough to get us started. So unpause and away we go. While the industry's moving out and the game's settling, oh, there we go. Empty that one immediately. It's only 5% full. And we've got recycling over here now. I'll have a look at the budgets. One of the easiest tricks, I'm sure you know by now, is to move this to 12%. 12% is kind of the border where they're happy and it doesn't really affect, or at least as far as I've noticed, it doesn't affect demand. Happy to be proven wrong in the comments, but that's fine. I'll leave these as 12 to increase our income. Oh, and it looks like our budgets are all over the place. They don't necessarily need to be changed at this point in time, but that's worth remembering that they're set up like this. It looks like our emergency services, because we're going to be hit with some disasters from what I've read. It's good that these are set up quite high, but I'm not sure about their coverage. It's not great. It's only this fire station out here, which will move over to our suburban area. I'll put it in here. For now, yes, I know that's made you upset. I'll also decommission a bunch of this and move a lot of this over to here, because we're going to try and house a lot more people. Oh, there we go. Move the schools over there for now. And that's the medical clinic. We'll put this in here next to all this as well. You can see that people here are nicely upgrading. That's good. These are still residences. We can get rid of those. That one's fine. I do want to change those into commercial. And I know it looks kind of, yeah, disastrous at this stage. Might need to make sure that the electricity stays connected. Just quickly go through here and connect that to there. It will come good because of the demand that we have down here. Maybe I might need another recycling center because we've turned off the landfill. I can put that one here. I thought, yep, water's fine there and electricity should reach. It does. These people are complaining, but that's just because we haven't dezoned them yet. Oh, and there's a police station, so we can move this one over here as well. Stick that in here. Now residential demand is quite high, and we're about 40, we've gone through about half our money so far. So what I might do is set up some more residential. I'll put this in a time lapse for you. One of the things you may have noticed me doing while I set this up was that I disconnected a few of these roads from the main road. One of the benefits that I've found in this game is that if you have got T-junctions instead of four-way intersections, that the traffic does perform a lot nicer. I know that it kind of messes with some of the routing and pathing, and it does make some of your other roads primarily like main arterial type roads, but you can easily upgrade those as long as you've got enough demand to grow this stuff back. But yeah, I've just found that working with T-junctions has made the game more performant as it scales over time. So it turns out about this time, because this is my first recording for quite some time, that my mic decided to mute itself. Looks like for now I'm going to be doing a bit of a voiceover, talk to you while I'm watching the playback of the activity that I was doing in the game. So bear with me if it's a little bit out of sync. Here I was basically just fleshing out and finishing off the water, telling a little bit of a story about making sure you've got everything covered by water. Story's a little bit inconsequential now looking back, and here I was having a bit of trouble trying to measure out like a good coverage, making sure to put footpaths in, making sure that it's easy for everyone to walk around, for Sims to cross over everywhere. I went over to the industrial area because there was still some demand and gave them that, and then my OCD kicked in, so I rounded out the water, and then started talking about TMPE, Traffic Manager. I often use roundabouts and set up roundabouts using the high priority road setting, Control-Shift-Click on a roundabout when it's highlighted, and then going back and it puts in that lane markings, so going back and making sure that that's not set that way, so that people can change lanes on the roundabout. Had a quick look at how close we were to buses and ferries and public transport. The game's obviously progressing along. Got rid of the landfill site and put in another recycling centre. That'll come in handy for later on in the game. Getting some of the fundamentals like this right to get started is quite important. Double checking it was covered by water, and then making sure that we've got, if we expand out there later, that we've got the coverage for the water. And now having a quick look at Show It. I think it's called Show It, that mod. I'll double check it. So now I go back and I'm starting to expand the commercial district, looking at that intersection there, the one that I've just highlighted with my mouse quickly. That's going to need a roundabout at some point. And here we're expanding the commercial zone, adding some more residential areas, adding my first district for this city, and going through some of the policies that we can add to the district, especially in this case schools out, which will encourage people from this district to go and work in industry rather than continue their education. From here I just continued expanding because the demand for residential is quite high, getting close to that 1700. Got a notification about the meteor, which is always fun to get those sorts of alerts. And then you can see it burning away there at the top of the screen. And then we got notification about water, so have to go in and play with the budgets. And now, Boomtown. Yay! So, now that my mic's fixed, we're back at Boomtown. We've got 1,700 people. This is pretty awesome. It unlocks bus, tram and taxi now for our public transport, and ferry as well. So we'll now use them, and that'll probably be a good place to end the episode if I get some bus lines in. So we've got a whole bunch of busways as well. Those will certainly help us out. We can upgrade some of our main roads to some of these larger ones, large roads with bus lanes. Set up some bus lines. There's some other cool stuff in here. Some of it's from the workshop, some of it's from DLC. We've got biofuel bus, and we've got, where's the normal bus station? There, bus depot, taxi depot, tram depot as well. So those will all come in handy. I think this city is probably a little bit too large for trams. Taxis will certainly come in handy, but I think trams might be a little bit too large. So, oh, I see there's an issue there that I'll need to come back and solve. And looks like we're still having some problems with electricity as well, which we can see up here. And over here. Before we jump into buses, I'll just have a look at the budget, make sure that this is still on point. So we're making some money, we're back up to $80,000 or so. Reset a whole bunch of these to make our people happier, and so that I don't keep on forgetting to come back to it. We can see that we've unlocked a whole bunch of public transport options over here now as well. Obviously we haven't set them up yet, so there's no cost, but they're now available on the right hand side. We've got some loans, but we won't need those right now. So why are you complaining about electricity? Availability. Alright. Well, I don't like using the, what's this, coal power plant, but for now, this will get us going. It's an investment, a significant investment, but hopefully it'll just get us back over that line. And this is water because I zoned it, but I didn't come back in and check. That was my mistake. I'll move this one up to here. And I'll probably come and put our bus. I think this might be a good location for our bus depot. So let's have a look at that. So to start, I've got to pick where to put it. The bus depot is quite invasive, not invasive, it's quite busy, especially as they all start spawning. And I think I've got the money, so I think I'll go with biofuel buses to get started. It's a bit more expensive, but there's a lot less pollution. There's only 25 pollution versus 50 for this one. And also the upkeep is more expensive, but the rest is the water and the electricity you can see in the bottom left there are significantly cheaper over time. Plus biofuel, it's probably better for the environment. I might position this down here. It's not actually no. Before I put it in a position that's not ideal, I will go and make a bus road. Have a look at what bus lanes we have. This should be under the small roads. We've got a large 6-lane road. Don't necessarily want to use that one. 4-lane road with bus lane. Let's have a look at what this looks like. Okay. So it's got, yeah, I wonder if I'm not sure yet whether the cars and taxis and that sort of, or taxis obviously, but I'm not sure whether cars will be able to use the the outermost lanes on this specific road. I think for now that'll get us started though. I will use the roundabout builder quickly to put a roundabout in so that we don't have congestion at this point. I'm going to use just the standard 2-lane road for now, and that looks like a good enough size. And thankfully it's left our power plant alone, our power lines alone. So that'll do to get us going. Go back to buses, we'll grab the biofuel bus and we'll put that out here as well. Put it close to the exit so that they go straight out onto the roundabout, and I'll use the traffic manager with Control-Shift-Click to set up this roundabout. Like I identified earlier in the episode, the lane markings over here can trip you up later. I prefer to go in and remove them. I'm sure there's a setting somewhere that I've accidentally clicked or that I can change to remove those defaults. That's not exactly ideal. But for now, that'll do. Just using move it with page down just to level out some of that for now. I can use Control H and click on this one to get it exactly flat, and then Control H on that one. Select and Control H and click to level that down with the road as well, and we can level out or smooth out our terrain out here. I do normally have the extra landscaping tools mod installed, which would make this a lot faster and better and cheaper, but that's trying to keep it a little bit realistic in this episode, or in this series. So that'll now spawn our buses, that's great. We're going to keep a little bit of an eye on cost, but thankfully it doesn't cost us anything to place bus lines. So we'll make our first one just down here, because the buses will need to come around past here anyway. Make sure that we put them on the same side of the road that we want them to stop on, so they're not having to do, if I try to put it on the wrong side of the road, they'll have to loop around. It causes a lot more congestion. and try and keep it away from an upcoming intersection if you can. It's not too bad when they're just past an intersection, but I found that it's worse when they're closer to an intersection, especially one like this, or like any of these that we want to turn into roundabouts later. Especially because this is well, not especially, but specifically because this is a suburban area, it might pay for us to loop it around and get it to stop at a few of the other locations inside the suburb, maybe along the back here, something like that. But Sims will walk quite a fair way, and if we keep these suburbs quite small, then having it at the front of the suburb down here on the main road, which we'll upgrade in a minute once we've got a little bit more money, they'll happily walk down. We want to make sure that it stops in a good spot in our in our commercial area. That'll also make the businesses happier. And we want to stop in industry in a few different places as well to make sure that the workers are satisfied. So let's put you just a little bit past the intersection so that you're well out of the way. And then we'll loop back around, keeping it nice and simple. Maybe we'll put this one around here somewhere. And then we come back and complete the line. Main loop, and then I normally like to prefix them with clockwise or counterclockwise. In this case it's counterclockwise. The reasoning for that is because we're now going to go and make an equal and opposite bus stop. So we'll create a new bus line over here and then try and mirror, except I'll need to fix that roundabout up, but you'll want to mirror a lot of these stops. We can come back later with the pedestrian bridge builder and make it so that these stops are accessible to our Sims. They can interchange from one to the other. Oh wow, that bus has to come all the way up here because that roundabout's a little bit broken. I'll fix that now. We'll complete that. This is main loop clockwise. Okay, now the reason that they're doing that is because we have a junction restriction on here. We need to allow them to pick any lane on the way in and pick any lane on the way through. Otherwise they'll start from this lane and be stuck in this lane and forced to move right off. One of the things that I like to do is allow them to pick, especially when they're coming from a single lane into two lanes, pick which one of them you want to go on. And now, hopefully, as the game starts running, so if I kick it off, I'll speed it up a little bit, we should see the line update. Okay, it's just because I had the stop that was too close to the road here. So this looks a little bit dodgy at the moment, looks a little bit upsetting because the buses are starting to back up a lot. I've got two different models of bus, that's cute. The reasoning for this though is the vehicle unbunching that I talked about right at the start when I was talking about the mods. The vehicles will spawn quite quickly, but then they all stop at the first stop, and you'll see now that they're starting to move apart, separate out. I've also, probably in poor form, got the one stop in, or both stops in one location here, so this is both buses from both lines. We can see that if we go into the line overview and change the color of one of them, just make it green for the purposes of this, and you can see now that the blue buses are trying to go for one loop, and the green buses are going for the other loop. So green is obviously traveling, green is traveling clockwise and blue is trying to travel counterclockwise. So this was a problem momentarily. You can fix that by changing the vehicle, especially if you've got the improved public transport right at the top there. If you have this spawn time interval set quite high, then this is much less of a problem. So maybe setting it on something like 60 will prevent this in the future, spawning one bus every second. So it's not going to be a problem for now. Let's have a look at our lines overview. We can already see that we've got some passengers. If we look at our goals, we can see that this we've just started. We're more than 10% of the way through the game, but we've just started using public transport. And those stops should be enough for now. I might go through and upgrade some of these roads to bus lanes, seeing as we're still making some money. And that might be a good place to live for this episode. So I'll put this in a time lapse for you. Okay, now there's a fair bit more that I'd like to do and go back through and fix. We're running pretty close on money, but I'm pretty sure that with our increased demand, even though we've asked a whole bunch of people to despawn, we should be able to stitch these two back together. Get some power running back so they don't all magically despawn. So that's fine for now. Yeah, I'm going to try and run the bus line up through here. That's all still connected. This one's not connected anymore. So for now I'll just do that because it's cheap as well. We're getting dangerously close to zero, so I will take a loan here. Not something I'd normally like to do, but I am a little bit worried that if I unpause the game, then it's going to drop below zero and we'll fail the mission or the scenario immediately, which would kind of suck for my first episode. So let's see where this gets us. I'll unpause the game and go at 3 speed. We are losing some people because of the despawning, as I've just upgraded a whole bunch of stuff. We'll try and move some of this a little bit further away from the road. Yeah, we would have fallen below zero, so lucky that we did take that when we could. I will move this bus stop out to the main road here. Try and keep it away from an intersection. Just like that. Looks like green. Is that just on the way? Yeah, that's just on the way back. Okay, so on the way out, that's fine. It stays on that side of the road, and on the way back, jumps onto the inside lane. It was just confusing me for a second there. Okay, our money's coming back. Our demand is still quite high. Oh, I'll just put a little one-way road in here to make that easier for them. So we'll do that. And then the bus should... Yep. So I think that's a pretty cool place to leave it today. I've come through and I've put bus lanes all the way through, upgraded some of this suburban area, expanded this, this commercial area, upgraded this suburban area. Can probably connect this one down here to give it another access point. We've got our biobus depot and it's going quite well, servicing a lot of the main areas. There's a clockwise loop and a counterclockwise loop. We have phenomenal suburban demand, so I think I'll save the game here and we can come back and maybe expand down over here, because I think we have we have another square available to us now. So maybe I can expand down here and make it so that just buses come and run through here. As far as the goals go, we're off to a good start. We're significantly into the game now, but we've just unlocked public transport. We've put our first bus route through. We've got 6,400 people running through. We've got significant suburban demand, limited commercial demand, but once this fills out again, they'll be looking for more. The next step is to make sure that all our citizens are happy, that we can upgrade the housing, we can get another suburban area in, possibly down here, and make sure that everyone stays happy. We've got enough power and water. We can see that in the Watch It mod over here. Might need to do something about education and disaster, because I think we're going to get struck with another disaster at some point. So yeah, I think that'll be a good place to leave it for today. Thanks for tuning into episode 1. I know it's very cliche, but everyone's got to start somewhere, so please leave me a like, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in City Skylines, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Thanks.